not gonna not be crying talking about it. But like,
Oh, so early. Hi everyone, and welcome back to After Broadway, the podcast where we deep dive into anything and everything musical theater. I'm Tara.
I'm Stefania.
And in today's episode, we're talking about Maybe Happy Ending. Is this the original playbill? I feel like it's not.
I feel like it was just the logo at one point. Or maybe it was like the record with the like...
Yeah, I don't know. I just like when we got this and I've been staring at it and looking at it because we've also seen it on screens like every day this week because of the Tony nominations. Yeah. I'm like, I don't think this was the original playbill.
I honestly don't know. Couldn't tell you.
It's irrelevant.
I think it might have just been the logo or maybe just like the record with the like H-E whatever.
Yes.
In it.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, so this almost feels like a bit of a long time coming because we talked about this in the fall because there was a time when this was part of our fall lineup and then the show was delayed due to like technical, not
like
issues, but I think like things not making it in time. Yeah, exactly.
And then we had heard, I don't know, something with the funding was happening.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows? I don't know.
That. Yeah. But yeah, we were like so upset that it was delayed by like 2 weeks because this was going to be, you know, a new show for us to see in the fall and then delayed. And we didn't know that we were going to be going to New York when we just went to New York in April. And now we've seen it. And I think we both have like a lot of thoughts. I think we also have a lot of thoughts on like the seats themselves.
Sure.
Which this is the time I think like to talk about it. We've talked about it like briefly on other episodes, but like we will be talking more about it in this one. We saw this on a Thursday. Do you want to like talk a bit about why we saw this on the Thursday and like our worries about this show, which ended up not even being a problem?
Oh my God. So yes, we love to rush a show, which is a whole probably other issue on this, but we kind of work our trips around rushing shows, which is a little bit risky. So something that we do when we're planning to rush is kind of monitor the telecharge seating map for the performance that we want to go to. A lot of shows will set aside tickets for their rush policy. And I do think generally maybe Happy Ending also does set aside tickets. However, if they're selling really well, they will start to release those tickets. And I'll talk about that here because the thing about the rush tickets is they are extremely obstructed. So I do think it's insane to sell them for full price, but like we'll get to that in a sec. So when we looked at the Sunday seat map, which was our last day of our trip, or so we thought, the last day of our trip and kind of our last slot, and we were trying to work it in with the timing of our flight, or so we thought, that they had released the rush tickets for general sale for that Sunday. Yeah. And so we were worried that they were just going to sell out because it was a really busy weekend for Maybe Happy Ending this for some reason. When Maybe Happy Ending first opened, we really thought it was going to close immediately, and then it just became a huge word of mouth hit. And now it's one of the big hits of this season, I think, which is kind of crazy. And now it's not really in danger of closing anytime soon, but early it was. So I think it's, you know, really fun to see that they're doing so well sales-wise that they are releasing these obstructed tickets that are normally held for rush for general sale. So when we saw that on Sunday, we got really nervous that maybe we couldn't get it on Sunday and then we wouldn't have another show slot to try. So we swapped it with our Thursday. I think we just panicked. Realistically, I would have swapped like a couple things around if we could have done this, but we were just panicking. So I waited in the Maybe Happy Ending rush line.
But just based on our Sunday scheduled original flight, there was like 2 shows that we could have seen just based on like the timing of the performances. Maybe Happy Ending is 1 act, so that's why this was like super appealing to us.
And it started at 3.
Exactly. And the other 1 act that we were interested in was Dead Outlaw, but they were opening on the Sunday, so they did not have performances, which like that killed that slot. And then the other one, which we ended up seeing, is Just in Time because they had a 2 p.m. So anything that was like a 2, there's not many 2 p.m.s on the Sundays. Yeah, because we needed to be on the train to get to the airport, which actually was irrelevant. But like anybody that's trying to do that, like the 8 p.m. flight, it does take like about an hour 10 to get out to like Newark. So this was the best plan for us.
Am I ever flying out of Newark again? Like, girl, I don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Like, sorry, we've just been like kind of, you know, just dropping little not hints of what happened over our dramatic flight home, but it's okay. We canceled.
We made it.
Anyway, so all that to say, we ended up rushing Maybe Happy Ending on Thursday. I'm the one who ended up waiting in that rush line, and you kind of ran around.
I was the Broadway rush report.
You did the rush report. I updated it because I'm logged into our Reddit.
Thursday, April 24th, I believe.
Yeah.
If anyone goes back and looks at that Reddit page,
look at our rush.
That was me at all those theaters giving those
Tara's,
numbers in real time.
And then you ended up at Boop. So we got there around 8:15. I don't know. Yeah. I was like
8:20.
Somewhere in the teens.
Wait, that was the day that the bus was also the issue, because we were just like,
oh my God,
going.
Yes. Yes, like we got on a bus that we thought would take us somewhere, then it didn't turn when we thought it was going to turn, so we had to backtrack. So annoying.
It was a whole thing.
My feet hurt. Like the drama of this.
Yeah, Steph like sat down immediately and like put on band-aids as I was like, okay, I'm gonna go see what's happening at the other Rush theaters. Yeah.
Bye. I was going to
look at something specifically, but I don't remember what show I was going to look at. It wasn't Boop that I cared about. I don't know why.
No, I know. I think you did walk to Just in Time. I think you went.
Oh, I did. That was the one that I went to specifically.
Circle and Square.
Yeah,
because that was kind of our original thoughts for that Thursday night. Anyway.
Yeah.
But then we're like, okay, if we can't. Anyway, if we have to go to that on Sunday, we can't go to that tonight. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, when I got up to the Rush, to the box office to buy my Rush tickets, I said, you know, what do you got? And he kind of presented me with 2 sets of tickets, one in the second row, house right, and one in the 5th row, house left. And my reasoning is I chose 5th row, house left. My reasoning was that I thought a bit further back would be a little bit less obstructed because we knew these seats would, again, this is extreme sides, like the 2 seats on either side of the theater.
Also, just to add here, allegedly the lottery seats are the same. So the Rush and lottery are all kind of like extreme side.
Especially if they're so sold like this.
Yes, unless it's like a random day when they have tons of tickets, like you could get lucky with a different seat. But for the most part, from everything that we've been reading for like the months leading up to when we saw it,
ticket
it's
options
extreme side.
Are these extreme side seats. And the reason why these are so discounted is because they're extremely obstructed. So yeah, so I chose the house left to be a bit further back. I think like we were talking based on, you know, the action that does happen on stage, would we have preferred to be house right?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. We might have been able to see a bit more what was happening like in the doorway that a lot of the story takes place in. But I am curious, like, we probably wouldn't have been able to see Oliver's apartment at all. Like, would we have seen Hwaboon?
Well, so Shara sat house right, and she seemed to have a much better... around the same, like, well, not 2, maybe like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think what worried me about hearing second row was like, oh, we're seeing nothing in the second row so far out. And this is my criticism, and it probably has to do a lot with like back of house space, like because there is a lot of like chunky set pieces that they need to move on, that they need to have. But this is a very like wide theater in my mind, the Belasco, and the way that they've set up the set and like the stage picture like does obstruct a lot of seats in that theater. And so I don't know if it's the right house for it from an audience perspective.
Yeah,
that's
like
all I have to say.
All this to say, anybody that's listening to this and wants to see this musical, I actually think you need to spend the money. I would never sit in those seats that we sat in again,
agree.
Because I specifically was completely cut off.
Yeah, you were like
Claire's.
fully on the aisle. I was 1 in, but even the woman next to me, 3 in, was also having a hard time seeing, which she said very loudly at one point.
But yes.
And hearing. She was very sweet. But yeah, I think you want to be dead center orchestra for this show. Personally.
Which is, it's like, and that's so hard to say as people that are always advocating for, you know, buy those cheap
Discount
tickets,
options.
wait in those rush lines. Like, we're trying to always give people listening, like the cheapest options, and center orchestra is obviously the most expensive option. I did read today, because or maybe it was yesterday, there was a Reddit thread about like shows that you shouldn't rush based on sightlines, and literally everybody said maybe happy ending. But what I did read today, which I was like happy to hear, again, this wouldn't be the case because they've been selling so well, but as time goes on, like this is on sale right now till January, so I'm sure as the months go on, apparently the TKTS seats are really good. So that's a little less expensive than, you know, buying it outright from Telecharge.
You have to be on TKTS. Like, you have to have tickets available for TKTS, but yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So you take that chance there. But if it's like kind of an off season, I don't know, maybe there's an opportunity for you to buy a discount ticket through TKTS, or like if you're just dying to see this, like you got to spend the money. I think like center, probably mezzanine balcony would also be okay, but the bar is really high, that is obstructing. Like on Telecharge, those first row seats all have like the exclamation mark in them because it says like partial obstruction. Yeah. And then like there are bars up there, but also, and I said this I think on our Tony nominations episode, like our tickets on the tickets had partial obstruction, but in my specific seat, that's a full obstruction. So
it is, I think, kind of outrageous the amount of seats in that house that do not get the full experience of the show.
I was gonna say
too many seats in that house.
Do you want to like talk about your theory of maybe not being the first in line?
I mean, yes, I actually do.
Because we haven't talked about this at all, but this is where we had this like full discussion was in this show. It was this.
Was it this show?
Because you were like, those people that are like 5 rows behind us were like way behind me in the line. And then you were like, I actually think that this is
they could probably see better.
So
yes.
Yeah.
I even sometimes for standing room, I remember when we saw The Outsiders for standing room, I think they sell from one side to the other. And they don't sell center out.
Middle out. Yeah.
But they should sell. The best seats are center, and they should go center out. So when we saw The Outsider standing room, we ended up in the center just kind of randomly. But like, I think that's just because we happen to be at that perfect spot in line. For maybe happy ending, it looks like they sell front to back on those seats. But, you know, the best seats, like the more... It depends what you want, I guess, but the most obstructed seats in my mind are extreme front, because the closer you are to the front, like the more the back of the stage is obstructed. For us, the back of the stage was obstructed, so I can't even imagine if you were extreme
like
side
row.
And up at the front or second row.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I feel like you need to have someone sitting in every potential rush seat and then like ranking them. Like I'm willing to do the job, but like the seats that I would have preferred to be a few more rows back. I think we would have seen better if we were further back.
I think why this came up, and I think why this is like super frustrating, is because there are people that are lining up at like 6 a.m. So like to me, if you're the first person in line, like you should have the opportunity to get the best ticket in that theater. It shouldn't be the person that showed up like 20 minutes before the box office even opened.
It depends on how you rank what the best ticket is, but for me, I rank it as best view. Some people will rank it as close to the action as possible, but for me, it is like best view of the stage.
I also feel like over time, because, you know, Reddit has the Rush Report out, people are talking about this on TikTok. This kind of was like the best kept secret that's no longer like a secret. Here we are like publicizing about Rush tickets on a public platform. But like there used to be a time when I would say... You know what? We have listeners. We have people commenting all the time.
And thank you so much.
But I used to be able to ask where these seats were. Show me on a seat map. Do you have anything else? That is not the case anymore. When I was in Death Becomes Her, like there was a man that was like, you get what you get. You do not ask for anything else. So like
this is the only show I actually did ask.
You asked for,
and I had the choice between the two.
But yeah, it kind of just seems like the people, because there's so many people these days in line, that the people that are working at the box office are just hitting print, and that's all they're doing. They're not even looking.
It also is, you know, this is a discount ticket option. It is not going to be the best seat in the house, and you have to know that. But that's part of the trade-off for paying less, is that you don't get if you want to choose which exact seat you sit in, then you have to pay the full price on telecharge. Like, that's just kind of how it is. But I do think the sightlines in this show specifically are egregious.
I just think there's certain seats that shouldn't be sold at all. Like the girl that you said you saw who was like first in line, like we saw her. She was in that aisle seat in the first row. I don't know what she saw.
What did she see?
Like, I truly don't know what she saw the entire show. So that's just like, I understand that we are paying less for a worse view, but I shouldn't be paying less for no view is how I feel on that. Because if I'm paying less for no view, why am I paying at all?
Especially because I feel like for this show specifically, a lot happens upstage. Like, their apartments are upstage. There are certain, like, you know, pivotal emotional moments that are like within the stage. They do spend some time like kind of at the front of the stage, particularly when like they're on the road trip and they're, you know, but a lot of stuff is like fully set in the stage, like in the back of the stage. So it does become like hard to see, you know, you're leaning in, but you're in someone's personal space and they're leaning in because they can't really see either. So you're just, it's tricky. It's tricky.
I did also read that like standing room is a really great view, but they do not give those out unless the show is sold. So
so risky.
If you're in the area, if you live in the city, I think that's like way easier to do. But for us to like potentially give up a spot to try and get a standing room is just like unrealistic when we're trying to see as many things as we are in as little of the days that we had. So that's kind of like the general on the rush tickets for this show. All that to say, and I said this before, it didn't impact my emotions on this musical. Maybe because it felt like I was like listening to an audiobook or like a podcast, because I couldn't quite see everything that was going on. But the stuff that I did see, I really liked. So before we talk about what we thought about the show, let's do what we always do, which is what is your, if any, pre-existing relationship to Maybe Happy Ending?
The answer is not much. The first I heard of it, I think, was when it was announced to be coming to Broadway in this season. I knew Darren Criss was going to be in it. I knew Michael Arden was directing it. And that was kind of the end. I think I knew it was about robots when that came out. But, we, you know, wanted to try and see it when we were there in the fall. Then it got delayed. And then it kind of just, like, left my mind because we weren't going to make it. And then over, the, you know, the past few months, since it did open, the word of mouth was building. And I was hearing about that so many people loved this show, that this was kind of one of the big shows of the season. And so it was definitely at the top of the list when we went to New York this spring.
Yeah, same thing. I knew exactly what you knew. I also knew that Helen J. Shen was in it, but I only knew that because she's dating Andrew Brett Feldman, and that's how that was served to me on social media. And yeah, I went into this basically as blind as I could have been. There has been so much Maybe Happy Ending served to me on TikTok. I did not listen to the cast recording. I don't think you did either. Maybe like a couple songs.
I had heard like, you know, some of the songs that were really being fed. Like, that's the way that it always was. That's the way that it always was.
Yeah, like I would listen to those songs via a promo, but I did not hit play on the cast recording because I didn't want to know. And I do think that is the correct way to go into this show. You don't need to have any pre-existing like knowledge of anything to see this and to enjoy the story. Do you want to give us a synopsis?
Wow. Okay. It's hard because there actually are lots of moving parts in this one, and I was trying to explain it to my mom, but I feel like I missed like 12 parts. So I think the general plot line is we meet Oliver. He is a helper bot, which is a sort of robot that humans could own. But he's retired and he lives kind of in this like helper bot retirement complex, and he's helper bot 3. So he's like very robot-like. And then he just follows his routine, and he's waiting for his former owner to come pick him back up. It's been 12 years at one point. Then all of a sudden we meet Claire, who lives across the hall. She's a helper bot 5, so she's much more human-like, much more naturalistic, which is like a contrast to Oliver. But because she's newer, some of her parts, specifically her charger, are not working for her. So she needs to borrow Oliver's charger. Oliver
it's giving iPhone.
Honestly. It is giving iPhone. No, but I feel like they were referencing the way that, you know, older technology seems to be better made than the newer stuff. Like the newer stuff is just about, anyway, style versus, doesn't matter. So she needs the charger. At first, he's like very hesitant to break his routine, but then he starts breaking his routine to let her borrow the charger. They kind of start doing this, and then eventually, I can't even remember exactly how it came up, but he wants to go find his former owner, James, and she wants to go see the fireflies at Jeju Island. They're near each other, so they decide to take a road trip together. She kind of needs to go with him because she needs his charger.
Yes, we should say this all takes place in Korea.
Yes.
To preface. Yeah.
So they go on this road trip to see James, and kind of like hilarity ensues, if you will. They have to pretend to be a human married couple, which is much harder for Oliver because he's very bad at pretending to be human because he's very robot-like. Oliver also loves, this is a very long recap, Oliver also loves this jazz singer that his former owner James loved, Gil Brentley, who's kind of just like a little side fun character in the show.
Yeah.
Eventually they make it to James, but James died. And that's devastating for Oliver. They go see the fireflies, then they come back, and turns out they fell in love. And so then... and that's maybe where I'll leave it. I don't know. That's where I'll leave our plot summary.
Yeah, like, are we going to give spoilers here? I feel like we probably need to, no?
I mean, yes, I guess this is like a spoiler-full episode, probably, because we'll talk about, like, what touched us emotionally in this show, but...
I was going to say, the last time I talked about this show, I couldn't get through it without crying, so we'll see what happens today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, the general is that, like, it's about these two robots that, like, try to... I don't know, like, find a little bit of, like, humanity within each other. It's interesting because I was reading about the original production. So this actually, like, this goes back 10 years ago, like 10 plus years ago, to when the writer, Hugh Park, had this idea in like 2014, and he said that he heard the song Everyday Robots by Damon Albarn, the frontman of the rock bands Blur and Gorillaz, and was like, what if I write a story about robots and them kind of like just living like he was inspired by the lyric of "We are everyday robots in the process of getting home." And then he wrote this, and he had just like gone through a long-term relationship that had ended, and he had other like losses around him happening. So he thought it was like the perfect opportunity to just like take everything that he was doing and like put it on paper. And then he brought it to his friend, Will Arntzen, who is also the book writer. He also did the music. Did he do the lyrics? I think he did. I think they both did the lyrics together.
Keep going.
Like,
I'll find out.
Yeah, like Will Arntzen did the instrumental for sure, but I think they both worked on the lyrics. Anyway, so then they started to like put this together, and they wrote this story, and the first time that this production was put on a stage was in 2016 in Seoul. And the first iteration of this, they were actually much closer. So Oliver was Helperbot 5 and Claire was a Helperbot 6. So they've like turned that down. So he's like, you know, a much older, he's 2 years like younger than her, basically.
He's a 3 and she's a 5. So
yes. But like, you know, when you compare it to like an iPhone, like, you know, an 11 to a 13 is a big difference. So I get that. Like, I understand why they wanted to have a bit more time instead of just like 1 year apart.
But it's also kind of stated that they're on like, I don't know, Helperbot 10, 11, 12. Like, these guys are so old at this point. It's like having an iPhone 4.
Exactly. Which is probably the best one. That's the problem.
I honestly missed my iPhone 4. That was the ideal iPhone 4.
My work phone up until like the end of last year was an iPhone 7, and I loved that phone so much. My nonna, my grandparents, they have an iPhone 6, and that actually was also great. Like, I miss my button. I miss the home button. Yeah, the button. Yeah. All the cables are different. The headphone though, so like jack. It is hard. It is hard to have different phones now, because the cables, the headphone jacks, like everything are so different. Anyway, so it had its first production in 2016, then it had another production in Seoul in 2017, then a production in Japan in 2016, and then it kind of just went back and forth between like Seoul and Japan all the way up until 2021, when it had a production in China, and then again in Seoul, had a revival in 2024, and now Broadway in 2024. So this is not like, it's a new musical, but it's not like a new musical. This has been on stage.
New to Broadway.
Yeah, new to us, exactly. Yeah. And so when I was reading about this, I'm like, okay, but when did Michael Arden get here? Because how did this find him? And it did. Like, the script came across his lap in 2017, and he's been trying to get it on stage ever since, because he heard the premise, was like, that's absolutely not going to work. And then he read the book and he listened to the music and he said, I need to put this on stage now. And it went through, I guess, like different workshops and iterations. I think like Marcus Troy was attached from the earliest workshop all the way until now. I think there was another guy that did it at some point, because there was out of town in, where was the
Atlanta?
Out of town? Yes, in Atlanta.
That was directed by Michael Arden.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, he's been with it since 2017. Yeah. But all of the other characters have changed. Like, Ashley Park was in the original workshop playing Claire. And I mean, because like at this point, Helen J. Shen was probably still in high school. So
no, I know they were just, I feel like Des Duran has been involved.
He's been around. Yeah, he was in it in Atlanta.
Like, early, yeah.
There was only like 3 people in the workshop, and Hua Boon, who was always there, obviously, as himself,
very
credited
important
everywhere. But yeah, like I just thought it was so interesting that it's kind of been around. It's been loved. I believe I read that it won. There's like a Korean musical awards, kind of similar to the Tony Awards, and it won everything at the Korean Musical Awards. So it's always kind of been a story that people have really liked. And there's a full Korean book of this musical, and then there's obviously the English book that we just saw. So I don't know, it's cool when like themes that are thought of in a different country, in a different language, can translate so beautifully into the one that we know.
Well, it's just like, it's like a human story. Like it is every human kind of goes through like the question I think that this show is asking is like, is love worth it? Like, if you know something is going to end, would you still choose to experience it or not? Not be crying talking about it. But like,
oh, so early.
But like, at the end, it's like, would you, even if it's going to hurt, like, would you still choose to know or to experience it? And wow, it was so sad. It's very bittersweet at the end. I think that's how I would describe it.
Yeah, like I definitely agree. I think, and I talked about this in our Tony nominations episode, I think the reason that this is so good is because the book is so strong. Mm-hmm. This is a 100-minute musical with no intermission, and to me it raced. Like, I didn't find that there was like a lull in this at all, because I was couldn't see everything, but was so invested in these characters and so invested in their storyline so early, which I think is just like a true testament to great writing, as well as obviously like the great performances that we saw on stage. It's a match. They complemented each other so well. But yeah, like song 2, I'm like, oh, I'm on the ride. I want to see everything that would happen. And I don't think I had any idea where it would lead.
I agree. I didn't know either.
End with me literally like unwell at the curtain call. Like, I could not even find a Kleenex. I was like searching for one, could not even find it. I was wiping tears. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, I know. The way that they defined the characters right off the beginning, it's down to writing, staging, performance. Like, you meet Oliver first and you see him in his little apartment for a bit of time, just alone in the apartment, kind of experiencing getting the mail, and you're learning so much about him, about what is happening to him, what the state of the world is, in just like that short little scene, like the world within my room. And it is so much storytelling told in such like an economical and smart way that you get to know and love this character like immediately from that scene. And then when you meet Claire kind of right after that, just the way that she comes in like so fast and so quick, you get to know her and understand how she's different from Oliver. Like their scene between each other has a little bit of exposition, but also just the way that she's like frantically knocking, and she's so much more like human like than he is, and that you immediately get that their characters are so well defined, and both like Helen J. Shen and Darren Criss are embodying the differences between them like so well. So you like the characters are so defined, and it's such a strong point of this musical.
You also, I mean, from what I could see in the production photos afterwards,
I know after we were like on our phones, like, okay, this is what I think we missed.
Exactly. But you learn a lot about these characters based on the way that their rooms are also decorated. Yeah. Like every time he gets his Jazz Monthly, he places it under Hua Boon's little plant. He has the record player playing the jazz music all the time. I actually like loved the way that this musical opened with it's Marcus Choi sitting on the stage who plays James, kind of just like he's out there while the audience is still coming in.
Reading his Jazz Monthly, listening to a record.
Yeah. And then he goes down and like Darren Criss Oliver comes up in his apartment and he's like brushing his teeth, like singing the song. And I just, I as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, this is going to be like, not that I thought that this was going to be bad because everyone's obsessed with it, but it was at that moment that I was like, this is going to be really good. But yeah, it just like took us on so many different like emotional journeys, because you also learn that Claire's humans, there was two of them that were like, she was a helper.
She had like one. She had one.
The woman.
The woman was her owner, and then the man, I was assuming it was like her husband, was like the owner's companion. I think it was described in the caption.
And this would come up on video screen whenever we would like see her owners, because those two people were not in the show at all, versus James, who is there in like flashback, but we would also see him on video. And James, Oliver considers James his best friend, whereas I don't think Claire had like the same kind of relationship with her owner, but there was kind of like a moment that happened that ended up ruining the relationship for everybody. But you learn very quickly that Oliver as a level 3 can't fall in love, whereas Claire as a level 5 can. But then that obviously is broken as time goes on.
Yeah, but she is very resistant. She doesn't want to, based on her kind of traumatizing experience with her humans.
Yeah. But I think it's when they're about to like, they decide to go to Jeju Island. I think what happens, because I know you were saying like, I don't know how we get here. Like Oliver is trying to save up money to eventually visit James. Yes. And then Claire's like, I have a car. Like, why don't we just go now? Yeah. And she's excited about the fireflies and whatever. But there's a moment when she says to him, like, as a joke, like, don't fall in love with me. And he's like, I can't anyway. It's fine.
Right.
And
as
then
they get in the car to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, she makes him promise, but it doesn't work. You can't promise something like that.
No, and also like I never would have thought that an actor holding up a pinky could literally make me so emotional as it's making me emotional right now. Like, it's crazy. This show is so, I think it's just like, it knows how to get, I don't know if it knows how to get into the emotions of everybody, because I don't know if everybody would feel the way that we feel about this. Maybe we're just like really sensitive people. But...
Well, yeah, I mean, that's clear, but I do think it has been affecting people emotionally. I think that's why it's had so much success. I think yes, like I was reading, some snippets of reviews. I'm on like the Broadway World Review Roundup, and a lot of them talk about, leaving in tears or getting so emotional like with this ending. The ending of the show. I think it's a story about robots, but it's like one of the most human stories that we've seen.
Yeah, it's also like what you were talking about earlier about like falling in love and finding that person, and then that's ultimately like the person that you lose. They sing that in the song, like, when you're in love, like, you are the loneliest. And it's just like, it's coming from these two people that aren't even people, so they also experience those emotions in the same way. Like, Oliver loved James. He just didn't know what that actual like feeling was, but that was the person that he loved the most. He wanted to see his friend again. He wanted to be in his life.
Yeah. He thought he couldn't like love as a helper bot, but you know, he didn't know that he had love the whole time
before. Yeah.
Wow. So sad.
I know that one of your favorite songs is when they like make up the story that they're the couple.
The rainy day we met. It's so funny. It's really so sweet.
It's so funny. It's really well done on the cast recording. This is like really, I think, one of the best moments where you get the two different personalities from each of them. When, you know, Darren Criss' robot can't like not be right in his decision. They have to have met in New York on a rainy day. And she's like, but I don't want this. I wanted it to be Paris. Like, why can't we compromise on something? And he just like is not able to do it. She's telling this whole story. And then he's like, but that's not what actually happened. None of this happened. So like,
all fake.
It's all fake. That then led to like one of the funnier scenes, which is when they end up at like a sex hotel because she needs to charge her battery. We haven't even talked about the fact that she's also like kind of dying, but maybe we'll get there in.
Well, the thing is, they're both dying. She's dying a little faster.
She's dying faster.
They're both dying. Like at one point, they both tell each other, you know, exactly how long until they're going to no longer be able to operate. You know, you see Oliver getting replacement parts, and then you hear that, you know, HelperBot has stopped making these certain replacement parts for his model of HelperBot. So he knows that there's a certain point in the future where he's going to be beyond like fixing, like his Wi-Fi has gone out and certain things are just unfixable. And for her as well, like the charger situation can only last so long and other parts for her will become obsolete. So they know probably almost to the exact date when they will quote unquote die. And that's also part of this like grief.
She also knows because she knew another helper bot who had to be like stuck to the wall charging at all times, which is like where her helper bot is.
It's giving my iPhone, honestly. It's giving it's giving my landline. Like,
but yeah, like there's a time period where like the portable charger isn't good enough for you anymore, and she is getting closer and closer to that time that she would have to be like attached to the wall at all times. But anyway, so they go to Jeju Island and she sings this like really amazing song to him about not setting yourself up for like excitement, to kind of just like go with it. She doesn't want him to go to James because she's afraid that he's going to be disappointed, and obviously he is. What song?
Is that What I Learned from People? Is that song?
Yes, so that's kind of when she's talking about the trauma of her humans as well. So, like, not to give the whole story here, but, like, it's kind of insinuated that her owner's boyfriend, husband, whoever that man is, ended up maybe sort of falling in love with Claire. And I think I kind of talked about this on our Tony nominations episode, and this is interesting to talk about this because I think that it gives similar themes to today and what is happening with like AI and all of this stuff, because she as a helper bot is someone that will tell you everything that you want to hear, will never disappoint you, because that is what her job is. How she was programmed to be. Exactly. Whereas his girlfriend, his wife, whoever she is, like she's a person and she has a personality and she has thoughts and feelings too, and there will be fights and things will happen. So they end up breaking up. And because of this like traumatic moment, the boyfriend, fiance, whoever asks for Claire's memory to be erased because he doesn't want that to be part of her system. So her owner ends up giving her password so that she can go in and delete her memories and decide for herself. And she brings that back and she shows him, right? Like that this is what happened.
I can't remember. So there is...
I feel like she shows him some aspect because like she touches his head.
Okay, and here's my question. And this is maybe what I'm not remembering right now. One of them waits for... I think she might be... Is he powered off and she goes into his mind, or is he powered off?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. She steals from
She steals his like memories of James, but this is pre Jeju Island. This is when they're in the hotel room because she doesn't want him to like be disappointed.
Right. He like powers off at that point and like then wakes back up.
I don't know if she shows him this moment right here and then, but she definitely tells him about it because she's worried that he's gonna be like too invested, which he obviously is. Anyway, all this to say, he ends up going to James's house because they're there and James is dead and his son is there, and his son does not want to see Oliver at all because this is also like a whole other element, emotional side of this story. But like the son feels that Oliver was more of a son to his dad than he was because he was that perfect son. I think he literally says that, like, you were the perfect son and I was just, you know, here. And Oliver like doesn't.
Was so jealous.
Yeah, and Oliver like doesn't quite understand those emotions because immediately he's like, do you want to see memories? And the son is like, not right now, like I'm good, like just please leave type thing. And that's when they decide to, you know, like the Jeju Island was like kind of a bust and they go to see the Fireflies to just make up for it. I won't spoil this moment because I do think it is worth seeing on stage. But I will say if you listen to that cast recording, let me find the exact name of it. It's an instrumental, which like shout out to Chasing Fireflies. All of the instrumentals on this cast recording are so gorgeous. Yeah.
And I love that they include them because they don't always include like just an instrumental moment.
Yeah. But this is like a really, really, really beautiful scene. And when there's a specific reveal, I literally teared up immediately. So it's just like a really cool moment on stage. And then, so then we go back home to Seoul and that's when they fall in love, basically. And then we kind of watch them as a couple for a little bit. And one of my favorite scenes is when they're fighting with each other just to see what it would be like to fight because they don't have true emotions.
They've decided that they're going to break up, but they want to run through their whole relationship first.
Yeah.
So they decide to try fighting and just try all these different like relationship things before breaking up because of the inevitable heartbreak that they'll experience. But then they keep kind of delaying the moment where their relationship ends because they're just enjoying it too much.
In love.
Yeah.
But yeah, like she kind of moves into his apartment at that time. She brings her like her pink fluffy, whatever that thing is.
Beanbag thing.
Into his room.
It's like duct tape.
She obviously can charge there because he's like made this adapter for her. So like she's fine to just like hang out with him. Meanwhile, as this is happening, like her timeline is also still, both of their timelines are going down in state. And then I'm obviously like skipping over things here, but this is like a generalization of the entire show. James's son comes back and he says, show me memories of my dad. And I think from this point forward is when I did not stop crying. I'm pretty sure.
To me, like I cried during the Firefly sequence because it was just so beautiful. And then it was just kind of like a subtle tear the whole time, like
every now and
again, eyes welling up. You're just like, oh yeah, okay, we're still doing this. Yeah, the key part of James's son coming for the memories is that Oliver gets his password, which he didn't have before, and we already know Claire has hers, so now they both have their password, and that is kind of, they both decide to potentially erase the memories of their relationship to save themselves the hurt of the other person's death.
Yeah, they basically say that like it's impossible to fall out of love. The only way to fall out of love is to no longer remember. And the one thing that Claire does say to Oliver is that he can keep the memory of her knocking on his door for that.
She said no.
Oh.
He said you
know what? In the Soul version, she says yes.
I think okay, what I'm remembering is he asks, I'll keep the first week, like they're deciding on like which backups they have. They're saying, she's like, okay, I have a backup this day, I have a backup this day. And he's like, I have, I can keep like the first 3 days because, of you coming to borrow the charger. She's like, no, you have to erase the whole thing. That's what I remember. It's
Okay,
not quite
I think
clear in
you're
the
right, but
Wikipedia
I
summary.
think because I was reading the Soul synopsis this morning, but maybe it's like the first iteration. Wow, that would have been like, if they would have said that, I maybe wouldn't have felt the gut punch that I did afterwards.
Yeah, in Soul, he says he can keep that memory, but I believe on Broadway, she's like, no, you have to erase the whole thing. But then,
Yeah, okay, yes, I
obviously,
think you're right. Yeah.
he's a liar. No, I'm kidding. Well, he's a liar, but
Well, he's a liar, but yeah, so they go into this, I don't even know what that is because I didn't see any of this moment, but I knew what was happening.
it's called in this cast album the memory sequence. So it's similar to the other
Yes,
the way we've seen other memories.
Video footage.
Yeah. It's similar to the way we've seen other memories of their previous owners before, and they're on a bit of a turntable in there. So I could only see one of them at a time because the turntable was going.
Yeah.
And then they get like closer and closer as they like erase their memories. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you've made
so
it this
sad.
far into the episode, like, we are gonna spoil this right now, but we end up then kind of like at the beginning when she's knocking at his door again because
she still needs a charger,
is running out of charge, and before he opens the door, he says to Hua Boon, "Don't tell her," and I burst into tears, and the audience was like, aw, like everybody like audibly like did something. I'm literally tearing up right now thinking about it. But it was just like, it was so beautiful to just like tell this love story of these two robots that are basically gonna die very soon, and that he now gets to take care of her while they both go, and it's just like a really beautiful story.
No, it's just it was really sweet. Like that's like the number one word I keep using is just like such a sweet, just like, so the whole thing was so sweet, and then like the ending is so bittersweet because of like, you know, she doesn't remember, obviously he has kept those memories, but he can't tell her, obviously, because like,
but
he's
he
trying to protect her.
does tell her in that finale
but he's
number,
so kind
which I
to
think
her.
is again so sweet. He's like, you know, the HelperBot 3 has a better battery, but the HelperBot 5 is like good at this and this. And he's like,
it has pros too.
Yeah, so he's like
really
so
sweet to her in that
complimentary to her in those final moments. And the song before that is the title song. We get the like, maybe this was our happy ending, like endings. There's a lyric, I need to pull it up because I thought it was just like the way that they described it was so beautiful. There's also like interspliced in between all of that is obviously the Why Love interlude.
Honestly, Des Duran as Gil Brentley kind of killed me in this show because I wouldn't call this a princess track the way I was calling I would call maybe
Marcus
Troy, because he kind of disappears and comes back for a bit of time, but you know, Des Duran would just like pop up and start singing. He does play the son, and he plays many other characters because Oliver's like, you look like James, and you look like James, and you look like James.
Yeah.
It's like, not everyone looks like James. That's racist. That's offensive.
Yes. No, so the ending lyrics in Maybe Happy Ending are, you held my hand, you taught me love, and then you set me free. That's not such an awful ending. If we have to have an ending, is this our maybe happy ending? And it's just like, it's beautiful. To go back, another one of my like absolute favorite moments in this show on the cast recording is another instrumental is the touch sequence when they literally touch for the first time. She like touches his face, he touches her shoulder. The kiss moment is so wholesome and so cute because they both don't know what to do with their arms. They're just like arms out really when they're kissing. I also love when they're in the hotel room and they turn on like the Terminator because of course they're watching the Terminator, also about robots. Like,
he loves it.
It's just like, I really do think it is, I mean, I said this before and I'll say it here, but I really do think this is the best book of the season. I really think it is.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. The way it is just like so economical, and the character work in the book, in the writing, is so strong that you feel so connected to, you know, your two main characters so much that anything that happens to them feels like huge to you. Like it
Yes.
has so much emotional impact because they've done such good work at like establishing each character and your connection to them. Yeah, I'm with you on the like kind of the way that the narrative has been laid out. Just like every piece of storytelling like leaves such a strong impact.
Which is also like crazy because again, this is a 1-act, 100-minute musical, and it's given us so much to play off
Nothing
of.
to waste.
Nothing to waste. I'd be so curious to see other people do this because I think that the book is strong enough that anybody could just like walk in
or like with a different staging, like different interpretation.
Exactly. Because obviously, like, I've been saying it now on every episode, I loved Helen J. Shen in this. I thought her performance was so beautiful, so real, so, I don't know, it didn't feel like she was acting to me. It felt like she was just living this character. Whereas, like, obviously Darren Criss, it felt more that he was acting to me because he has
more, like,
acting.
strong robot choices to make.
Yes.
And those brows.
Such strong eyebrows.
Those brows.
It's giving 2016 when this show was first created. Like, that's what it's giving. And his, like, perfect hair and the way that he
clothing.
That he sits, the way that he stands, the way that he, like, moves his head. Like, he's got I think he has a lot more physical elements to work with because he has to be so aware of his body at every moment, whereas like her being more human, like she can kind of just like relax a bit with her posture and her actions because she doesn't need to be so robotic the way that he does. Yeah.
What I would say is like it's a 4-person show and it is really on the shoulders of your Oliver and your Claire, like as, you know, Gil Brentley and kind of James and others. The other two do come and go, but
is he listed as James and others in the program?
I don't know. That's what I would call him, James and others. What would you call him? James, Junso, and others.
I would agree. Oh, there you go.
James, Junso, and others.
You know, he does have that iconic moment at the hotel.
At the hotel, like the hotel teller.
When he's like, wow, you've got a real 10 there. And Oliver's like, actually, she's a 5. And then he looks at the audience. He's like, what was that? Great. Good work, Marcus Troy. We saw him as George Washington in Hamilton in Toronto.
That was him? I didn't realize this. I didn't know this. That's crazy. He was good. I liked him.
Wait, didn't we talk about this or am I making this up?
I swear we did not talk about this, but maybe we did. I don't know. Maybe we did.
We talked about it in the theater. He was in the Philip tour. So if anyone saw the Philip tour, you know what? I might be lying. Maybe it wasn't Toronto. It could have been Buffalo. I'm not sure, but we've definitely seen him. I just don't know.
I believe you. That actually, I think that he might be the Toronto George Washington.
George Washington? Yeah.
But we can pull that up. I can confirm that later. Or if we saw him in Buffalo. But I think maybe we saw the Angelica tour in Buffalo.
Maybe. The Philip tour might have been the most recent time it was here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it was the most recent time. Who knows?
So then, did I even see this with you? I don't even know.
No. We did not see that.
We all saw it separately.
We did all see it separately. Do we wish we saw more Marcus Choi and more Des Duran, or do we think like that was the correct amount for both of them?
I think Des Duran's track is enough because if we're not seeing him, we're hearing
He's also the
his
waiter.
Voice.
He's also the waiter on the rainy day we met.
That.
I don't know if you saw that.
There's also a moment when he's in... No, I definitely didn't see that. But there's also a moment, I think it's in the hotel. He's in another level above. Yeah. Didn't see that.
He came up on top of their apartments at one point near the end. Yeah, he was kind of chilling.
Like, anytime Oliver is, like, singing, it's Dez's voice.
Yeah, he's singing along. Out. Oh, because also he's a robot. Yeah. He can just, like, mimic. Yeah, like, when he's spinning the records, it's him. When they're in the car listening to music, it's him.
So, yeah, I don't know if I needed that. And I actually think we got enough exposition from James in that, like, early song that he sings with Oliver.
Yes.
Dun, dun, da, 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 Oliver. Ba, 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 da, da, da,
Where You Belong?
Yeah.
Where You Belong, I think.
Yes, Where You Belong, yeah. So I actually think we do get enough of him, and then we see like we don't see any like real footage. Well, we see the footage of him and his son at the end there as part of the memories. But yeah, I think it's enough because it's not like their stories, so it's like I understand enough as to why like Oliver had such this like reaction. And I think any of the stuff that we see with Claire's owners is just bonus.
Just like color.
Because, yeah, I don't know that, like, I needed them to, like, understand
No,
that
I
she
don't
is
need
the way
more
that
from
she
them.
is.
I do not need more from them. We had enough from them.
No, but I mean, in general, like, would you even have them at all? Like, do you think that they're necessary?
Oh, like the video clips of them? I think, well, yeah, it's a good question. I actually do, because I think a lot of times in stories like this, you get a lot of like backstory and history on the male character, and then you kind of get just like none from the female character.
Yeah.
So I do think, like, in terms of, I want to know both of their traumas. You know, I want to get the flashbacks to both of their history, to why they are the way that they are, why they feel the way that they feel. And so I do think it is important to get kind of her backstory just as equal as his backstory, because, you know, the two supporting characters are both supporting characters for him. Like, Oliver is our main character, and Claire, even though she is like a lead performance, is like the supporting character. Our story is told through Oliver's eyes.
Does it bother you that they're not physical characters, that they're just on video?
No, not really, I don't think.
Yeah, I think if it's like a different show, obviously where no technology is used, I'd be like, that's weird. But this makes sense in this situation.
I do wonder if you do kind of like another production of this show with a lot less of a technology budget, if you do have a bit more of a cast. And you could do like other fun things with more of a cast, stage certain things differently. But right now it's just, you know, just the four of them. There's more understudies than there are people in this show.
Right, exactly. And they're there all the time. Like,
Really?
if you watched Helen J. Shen's vlogs, the two, like, Claire understudies are, like, always hanging out in her dressing room, like, at all moments. So they're
She
always,
needs a friend.
or at least
she
one.
needs some girls.
They're always there.
They might always have to have, like, one if she's scheduled to be on.
There might be a standby, yeah. I did want to say, because I saw this in an article somewhere, that Michael Arden has been nominated 5 times before, I believe, for his work, but this is the first thing that's new, which is so interesting, because everything that he's
done,
worked
like,
on has been like a
revivals and
revival
stuff.
or like an adaptation,
So
where this
interesting.
is like the first like full brand new original musical that he's been nominated for. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he won for Parade, which we said. He was also nominated for Once on This Island. Sorry, I'm on his like Tony Award.
I also wanted to say too, while you're doing
Spring Awakening. This is his fourth nomination. Yeah.
That Hugh Park said that Will Arnson said that this is probably set in like the 2060s, because it's not like 100% clear. There's no like,
just like
there's no like date
some
at the
sort of
top. It
future.
says like Seoul, Korea, but it doesn't say like whatever. But he said when this was like presented to him from Hugh Park that it was like, we're in the future. We're not like in the way future, but we're definitely like in the future. So he said like the 2060s. The actual quote is, the setting is probably in the 2060s. This is sort of a generation later when there have already been these humanoid robots created. People have become so attached to their technology and more isolated, which is something we feel is happening now. But looking ahead, we see that as people have become more cynical about the world and isolated from each other, these first generation robots are discovering the world for the first time and discovering some of the things we've forgotten about. So there's also like that like beauty in the fact that Oliver's probably never been in a car before and never looked out a window before. And something else that I thought was so like type A from him, and he was so worried about the playlist that would be in the car because it needed to be jazz. Like, he had to be listening to the music that he liked. He didn't want to hear what Claire wanted to pick. So yeah, it's interesting that like the humans had always seen these things and had these like helper bots as, you know, companions too, but the robots are seeing so much of this for the first time ever, because all they really knew was like their owner's house, their apartment, and like nothing really else. Yeah. I don't know. I loved it. I just wish that like my only like real critique here is that I wish I saw more.
Yeah, I do think they need to sit in every seat in the house, and not every seat should be sold. And I know you want to fill your house, and it's like you don't love it when there are empty seats, and you want to make as much money as possible. But
take them out. Take those aisle seats completely out.
But like so many seats in that theater,
I know,
in my mind, are an obstructed view, and like it's not okay. It's not right. Yeah. And
I do think
we
this
were
is
in
a case. Yeah, go ahead.
we were in like the Luntfontein a few days later, and I said, "Oh, I think," we were sitting on the extreme side again. I said, "Oh, even if you're on extreme side in this theater, I think you have a pretty fine view. It doesn't go as wide as the Belasco did."
Yes, but also this set is so boxed in at the Belasco that I honestly think in a lot of theaters, like, many seats would be obstructed because the main frame, which is like this thick screen, comes pretty far out. So it's just
It like adds thickness to the stage, to the outside of the stage. I think it probably has to do with backstage space. They probably need a lot of backstage space to put those boxes in. But if it was in a narrower theater, I think this would work a little better.
Yeah. It would also be interesting to not have the apartments like be so boxy, but this is obviously something that they're playing with specifically. And I think it's like the set design that they have done is beautiful. Like it does really work, because when the stage opens up, like, it's really cool. I think they're doing some really fun lighting moments in this show. What I was going to say is, if you are outright buying tickets to maybe Happy Ending on Telecharge, like, please do keep those seats that have the exclamation marks in mind, because they are obstructed. Like, it's not just there as you might not see a little bit. Like, those seats that Steph is talking about that we sat in are the ones they were selling at full price. So if there's an exclamation mark on it,
over $100,
I would say don't buy it. Yeah,
over $100 for these seats, and then you're missing a good portion of the show.
Yeah. Okay, should we rate it?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I'm going to rate maybe Happy Ending 9 out of 10 Claire's outfits, specifically her like blue headband and her little like orange purse.
This is a 9 musical, but for my specific sightline, I have to give it an 8 because there was just so much that I couldn't see. But please know that this is a 9, maybe 10 musical, but I just have to go on what I could and could not see. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Waboon, obviously. And our main, actually,
the true critique.
Our main critique is that I know that the pin sets make you money, but we all just want an individual Waboon. So please, someone on Etsy's probably
I was
made
looking
it,
on Etsy. I could not find one. I was looking on Etsy. No, I think it's too early. I think maybe I need to find like a Broadway pin person. I need to find like a Broadway pin person and then like put in a request for a Waboon.
Yeah. Because that truly is the main critique, is that, like, I know we love the pin packs,
pins.
Guys,
I just want Waboon.
They're also, the other ones are so large. So we just
That's a true critique for Broadway pins. Why are you gigantic? Please be small.
Yeah.
I can't put 20 on my jean jacket if you're all
This is a correct size. The Sunset Boulevard pin is the correct size. You also, like, as I learned, you shouldn't put 20 on your jean jacket anyway, because they just fall off. It's too heavy.
I have a bunch on my jean jacket now because I think I want to, like, take a cute pic and then, like, take them all off.
Right. Yeah. We also are looking for, like, fun ways to display pins. The best one that I saw was at the new theater store right beside the Winter Garden. They like, custom made some cute little, like, pin board situation. Tim should make pin boards.
Oh, especially because he sells a bunch of pins, like the Theater Marquise. I bought, a Broadway pin from Tim.
Sorry, this is Tim, Broadway Up Close. Tim, if you're listening to this episode, maybe I'll just clip this specific part and send it directly to him. Please make pin boards, because I literally would buy one and, like, put one up for display, because I do think a pin these days is, like, a really fun way to get, like, a souvenir from the show that's not a poster or, like, an $85 sweatshirt or something like that. It's, like, cheap and cheerful, and you get enough from it. So
our pin journey began when I got the three of us, me, you, and Shara, the, like, Hamilton pins. Like, I bought a set, Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy, and split it up between the three of us, and that kind of began the pin journey.
Yeah, it's so funny because, like, yes, it did, but my parents have worked in sports merchandising for years, so this pins have been in my house forever.
This began the Broadway pin journey. This began the musical pin journey.
No, but it's so funny because I talk to my dad about the pins all the time, because he always talks about how, like, they're so cheap to make. And they're selling them for, like, $12, $15, sometimes $20. The pin sets are like $30 for 3 pins. So I told him he should get back into the pin industry
business.
and make some
Waboon.
Broadway pins.
Jeff.
Waboon.
Waboon.
A special request. But yeah, there's truly a market for it. Like, everyone's kind of like interested in the pins. Are we at a state that we're ever going to get to like pin trading like at Disney World?
Probably not. But last time, I don't think I bought a pin when I was in Disneyland Paris. But when we went to Disney in Florida, we bought pins. And like, I try and find pins when I'm on vacation. Sometimes it's tricky. Yeah. Sometimes it's tricky. Not everyone
has it.
I got one in like
pretty
Amsterdam.
Successful in Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm. Got one in Amsterdam, and then I got the ABBA set. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah, I might have got one more. But yeah, I always want more pins because I like how like they're small. I get like pins and magnets and just like little things.
Yeah, a cute souvenir. Anyway, now that we're off track, that's our thoughts on Maybe Happy Ending, and it's now time for our obsession of the week.
I, earlier today, was listening to the Stages podcast. That is with Stephanie J. Block and Marilee Fairbanks. And they talk to people on Broadway / in the arts, just kind of about their journey. And it's kind of like a very freewheeling conversation. The one that I really liked is, I actually listened to Darren Chris's one, but that wasn't my favorite. The one that I loved
sorry,
listening
Darren.
to, sorry to Darren. The one that I loved listening to today was Jonathan Groff, my love, my fave. Yeah.
Dream lover, where are you?
Love him. And it was just such a sweet conversation talking about, his Broadway debut, which was not Spring Awakening, and what it was like to do Spring Awakening, what it was like to, be himself, talking about coming out, talking about, his relationship, like, to his parents or to his hometown, and just talking about Just in Time, the Bobby Darin musical, and how it kind of came to fruition. And I just thought it was like a really lovely conversation. And I'm definitely going to go back and listen to more of the archives. I started the Lizzie McAlpine episode, another show that we've already spoken about. So, just kind of making my way through people talking about the musicals
from the season.
From this season, and people talking the musicals that I saw and loved. I also listened to Jasmine Amy Rogers on the Drama podcast, which I also thought was pretty good, but I've already shouted them out before. So this time it's got to be Stages.
The Drama podcast stan.
I do. I listen all the time. But also while I'm working, because I work with like numbers, I always kind of have a podcast going. So I'm always looking for something new to listen to. And if you get a shout out here, that means you were good. Because sometimes I really quit really early. Okay? So Tara, what's your obsession this week?
I'm back with another miscast obsession.
Wow.
And this time it's not from the album, but it's from the most recent 2025 miscast. They did stream it a while ago, and I don't know if it's still online, but I know that certain things are still online. So the one that I'm going to talk about today is Philippa Sue and Stephen Pasquale singing a mashup of Not Another Day Goes By from Marilee and Without You from Rent. It is so beautiful. They have two of the most like beautiful voices maybe ever.
Their voices, both of them. Their voices. Into the Woods came up while I was playing shuffle. While I was shuffling my Spotify the other day, and I was like, no one has a voice like Philippa Sue. Absolutely nobody has a voice like her.
The tone of her voice is so stunning, and I don't know that I've ever heard the two of them sing together before until this moment. Yeah, so this is, obviously the miscast is that, like, he's singing Not Another Day Goes By, but then I was like, who sings Without You from Rent? But it is Roger, isn't it?
Yeah, Roger and Mimi. I think they both sing it.
Yeah, they both sing it together. Anyway, what I also, like, the performance and everything aside, I, like, teared up at the end. That's how beautiful it was. They're just, like, they're holding some of these, like, so crazy long notes, and also both of those songs are beautiful songs. They're really strong. But what like I loved is I love with miscast specifically that the other people that are performing are on the stage watching. And Aaron Tveit, who's previously been a Roger in Rent, was watching them sing, and you could just see on his face how obsessed he was with it. Like, he was loving everything that they were doing. He was getting emotional as he was watching them, probably also because like he either before or I think it was right after he got up to sing his like Gavin Creel tribute, which like if you want to watch a performance and cry, I highly, highly recommend Aaron singing. I know him so well. But yeah, my obsession today is Philippa Soo and Stephen Pasquale. And I'm like so happy that we're back in a place that Miscast is being streamed online again, because I feel like there was a few years when it was not happening. So I'm happy that we're back, and happy to talk about it here. So yeah, that's our obsessions. That's our thoughts on Maybe Happy Ending. And if you want to go back and listen to any of our other episodes, we are slowly making our way through our New York trip. The Floyd Collins episode will be out. Our Tony nominations will be out. This is, I don't know when this episode is coming, possibly when this is out. Maybe Happy Ending has won all the Tony Awards, or they did not win the Tony Awards.
Yeah, you'll know. We don't know.
You'll know before we know. But yeah, you can go back and listen to our backlog of episodes by subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a comment.
And you can follow us on Instagram at Off2BOA Podcast with the number 2, and on TikTok at Off2 Broadway.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.